Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome to the Holliston High School GPA game show. We'll be explaining more about what we will be doing as we move forward this evening. So first things first, we want you to meet your host for the evening. This is the Holliston High School School Counseling Department. My name is Elisa Taylor. I am the department leader for the counseling department and also one of our school counselors working with students with the last names letters A through D for our class of 2024. Below me, I have Mary Beth Mont. She is another one of our school counselors working with students with the last names E through L. Manny Harwich works with students with the last names beginning with the letter M through R. And Jennifer Andrews also works with students with the last names beginning with the letters S through Z. So that's who we are. We're going to explain a little bit about how the evening is going to run. But first, again, let us welcome you tonight. This is our kickoff event for the class of 2024 college planning. We are so excited that students and their families from other classes and other years at Holliston have joined us, but most of this information will be applicable to juniors, so just keep that in mind. This presentation is really meant to be a very general overview of the college admissions process. We know students and their families will be spending countless hours over the course of junior and senior year preparing for their college applications. So our hope is that by the end of this evening, you'll leave with some sort of guidance and a plan that you can work together with your student to figure out, what things should be happening at particular points throughout the process. In a moment, we're going to be watching a short video of something that we call the GPA game. We will all be serving as members of a mock admissions committee, and we're going to be looking at applicants with varying GPAs and other qualities that particular colleges might be looking for throughout the process. Now, this presentation was originally developed in the early 2000s by the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, but we at Holliston have adapted it to represent some of the more common themes that we see today and the really ever-changing landscape of college admissions. And at the end of the video, we'll break and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about some of the topics that were addressed. So you hopefully have a better understanding of what the process is like. We're hoping this event will be approximately 45 minutes to an hour. We hope to have time for questions at the end. Of course, if you have a question during the presentation and you don't want to forget it, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll address it at the end. But we do ask if you have a specific question specific to your student that you address it with your counselor. So try to keep the questions a bit more general. So we have a lot of information to cover and we can get started. So first things first, here is the video that we have recently put together with all of the different features and factors in college admissions.
Welcome everyone to the very prestigious University of America. You are now sitting as a member of an admissions committee who's at the very end of your admission cycle, and you still have 9 great applicants from which you can only admit 3 students. All of these applicants have very appealing qualities, but unfortunately, there's simply not enough room in the class to admit all 9. Here we have our group of applicants arranged in GPA order from lowest to highest, beginning with a 3.2 and ending with a 4.0. They're all great candidates, and so the admissions committee will have to decide based upon their personal qualities and qualifications whether or not they get in. If the committee were to decide only on academics, the 3 with the highest GPAs would be the ones to be offered admission. But as we know, in a real admissions environment, there are other factors that are considered. So the purpose of this game, so to speak, is for you to see the factors that are considered throughout the application process, and then it's not necessarily the individual with the highest GPAs that are getting in. So let's get started. Move up 2 if you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program. As you can see here, our student with the 3.5 and our student with the 3.8 have been highlighted as they both have this quality That has been noted throughout the application process. And so they will move up. Move up 1 if you play the oboe or viola. Move up 2 if you clearly stated that this college was your first choice by making an early decision application and commitment. Move down 1 if you do not know any of your teachers well and had trouble finding someone to write your college recommendation. Move up 1 if you earned your seal of biliteracy in French.
I don't know. They're making this guy a hero.
Move down 2 if when you typed your college essay, you forgot to change the name of the college you were applying to. Move down 4 if you've submitted your application but didn't check your email reminding you to complete the self-reported grades form. You missed one required component of the application. Move up 2 if you are a legacy. Move down 1 if you did not write the optional essay for your college application. Move down 1 if your essay was more about your grandmother than about the influence of your grandmother on you. Move up 3 if you wrote the essay of the year, the one that was passed around the entire admissions office. It was so remarkable. If you were dishonest or misleading on any part of your application, sit down. You're out of the competition entirely. Move up 2 if you will be the first in your family to attend college. Move up 2 if you demonstrated your passion for service by assisting local food pantries in the community. Move down 2 if you went home after school every day to play Xbox with your friends. Move up 1 if you participated in a significant leadership project. Move up 2 if you are a varsity athlete. And if you're a varsity athlete and took second place at a regional competition in your sport, move up 1 more for a total of 3. Move down 3 if you got a D in an academic course at the end of your first term during your senior year. Move up 1 if you came to the campus information session and introduced yourself to the college representative. And in the case of the student who just got the D, explained the extenuating circumstance. If you are a legal resident of Idaho, move up 3. If you never gave your counselor any personal information for use in writing your college recommendation, move down 1. If your last name is Belichick and the name on the sports complex is Belichick and it's not a coincidence, move all the way to the front and stay there. So there we have our newly sorted group of applicants. And as you can see, the students with the highest GPAs are not necessarily those students towards the front of the line. Our 3 students who will be offered admission to the class are not the students with the highest GPAs. They are students with very respectable academic records, 3.2, 3.6, and 3.4, but are not the highest GPAs within the group of applicants we were looking at. And had we not considered these other factors, they would have not been offered admission. So just a little food for thought as you embark on this college application process.
Okay, we hope you found that was helpful. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper into some of the topics that were addressed throughout this game. But, oops, it's going to start over again.
Welcome, everyone.
Sorry about that. But first, it's doing this again. Sorry. Well, first, we want to address the elephant in the room. And if you might have seen the slide already on the other screen. But the one thing that was not addressed during the game that many people commonly think to be one of the more important aspects of the college application process is standardized testing, the SATs and the ACTs. I mentioned earlier in this presentation that we adapted the game to meet the needs of our students. But even in the early 2000s, when this was originally put together, standardized testing was not included as part of, as one of the factors that were considered. So even then, back 20 years ago, it didn't play as big of a role as people initially think throughout the process. So the thing to consider is, with the pandemic and the decrease in the availability of test sites and centers, many colleges put less of an emphasis on standardized testing. And many of these colleges even removed the requirement entirely, and they adopted a test optional policy or a test blind policy in which standardized test scores were not even reviewed, even if they were submitted. A lot of colleges have continued with this policy moving forward. So this is just great. Just kind of continue at, if you want to send it, great. If you don't want to, not necessary. But so if testing isn't your thing, it's truly okay to not submit SATs or ACTs. There are many, many colleges that will still consider your application. But with all that being said, I don't want to discount that the importance of standardized testing. Many colleges still require it, and they use them throughout the application process. And even in some specific colleges, their specific majors might require the testing. For example, nursing or engineering may require standardized testing, even if the university on the whole does not. So it all depends on the school. So essentially the message is to do your research. There are lots of options for students that place more emphasis on other aspects of the application that students feel better represent them throughout the application process. So lots of ways to go, just do your research. So one of the other factors that was addressed in the game was transcript and academic rigor. Hands down, the most important part of the application process is the transcript. I always say that the transcript represents 4 years out of a student's life, whereas standardized testing represents 4 hours on one Saturday of that student's life. So hopefully you can see where the colleges are placing more emphasis. Now, the transcript doesn't include just grades, but it also includes the types of courses that students are taking, or as many schools will call it, the rigor of their curriculum. Many or most colleges will look at the transcript of a student relative to Holliston. So what this means is they can't necessarily compare Holliston students with students from Hopkinton or Framingham, Natick, because very different programs are offered to students at all of these schools. So what's considered a demanding program at our high school might not be considered demanding at another, and vice versa. Particularly with our block schedule, this is really important to consider. It's simply not possible for our students to take more than 6 or 7 APs. That would be a ton and very difficult for our students to do. So the colleges do understand this. Most of our colleges are reviewing applications regionally. The representatives will become really experts on the schools in which they serve. So they know what is challenging here. They know that we are a block schedule, that we don't have particular courses in some areas. So they know what a challenging curriculum is at Holliston High School. The one thing that I do want to stress, though, is that this doesn't have to be a constant over the 4 years. You know, if a student isn't taking all honors and all APs all 4 years, that's completely fine. You know, there are going to be ebbs and flows. And the intent of high school is for students to show growth over the course of their 4 years. So colleges love to see that students are on an upward trend. So for example, you know, say freshman year, you have a lot of college prep courses. Sophomore year, you sprinkle in a few more honors, and junior and senior year, you add 1 or 2 APs. This really shows that students are rising to the challenge, and that it shows that students, are rising to the challenge, and it also shows that they can make the transition from high school into college. It's also really important to know, and as it was discussed in the presentation, that senior year is very much considered by the colleges. This includes both the grades that they get and the types of courses that they're taking. In fact, most colleges won't even consider or make a final decision on an applicant until they receive some sort of grades. So that could be first term grades, semester grades, and in some cases, they may even wait for our third term grades. You'll recall in the game, one student received a D during their first marking period of their senior year, but ultimately they discussed, what was going on with the admissions representative. For example, it could have been an illness or a death in their family. So it's very unlikely for this particular student in the school that they would have automatically said no way to that student right away. They likely would have requested grades at the mid-year to make a final decision on that particular student. So while many students want to set themselves up for an easy breezy senior year, and it's really more about finding a balanced and challenging schedule for that particular student. The flip side is true too. We don't want to see students taking on too much, as this can impact, their well-being. So we want them to be thoughtful about the classes they're taking their senior year and find a program that works for them. It's really all about balance.
Okay, so the next topic is extracurricular activities, service, athletics, and employment. I love all of these events because when I get on, I see sometimes faces, but more often than not, familiar names right now from our community. And it's so nice to have us all together. And I think what's wonderful about Holliston as a community, and I think when kids move on to college, is that the next place that they go will become their home and will become their community. So kids are trying to figure out what's in high school, what's important to them, and how they want to participate and spend their time. And when they get to college, they're looking for the right fit for how, do they have a particular service program? Can I get a job on campus or off campus? Can I participate in a sport at the club level on campus? So when admissions look at an application, admissions representatives look at all of the applications they read through, they're looking to build a community. So all of these factors are important. One is not more important than the other. If if a student is responsible for a younger sibling from 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock, they may not have time to get a job that's different than that or participate in sport. And I think that's okay and that's important. That's part of a family value. So when the admissions people are reading through an application, the common application has 10 spots for students to list what they do outside of the classroom. So in considering those opportunities that you have, students and families, if you're helping your child kind of navigate this, you want to think about what lines up with your interest and aptitude. what lines up with your family values, because the colleges are going to be doing the same thing when they're looking at this. They're not looking for 100 activities. They're looking for what's meaningful to you in your life, why you've chosen it, and what role you play in it. So there's so many opportunities for kids, and our community is built on all different types of people coming together. So whatever you choose will be right for you. And we encourage everyone to find something that they can do that lines up with their interest and aptitude. And if you need help doing that, come on down. We can help you. Sue Stone, who's our career coordinator, can help you, and we can all work together to find things that are of value to you.
Okay, the next topic that came up was types of applications. There's a number of different ways for students to apply to colleges, and each college is different. But these are some of the ones that we hear all the time: early action, early decision, regular, and rolling. And so I thought it would be a good idea to sort of explain what all of that meant. In general, an early deadline assumes that students are ready to apply. It assumes that students have researched the schools, maybe visited the schools. Their grades from their junior year are indicative or a good representation of who the student may be. And oftentimes maybe they have taken the SATs or ACTs and essentially are ready to apply. So early action is typically a non-binding agreement. So this means early notification, but students are not obligated to attend. Early decision, on the other hand, is really reserved as a student's top choice, the top school for the student. It's a binding agreement, meaning that students are obligated to attend. So if financial aid isn't a concern, this is an opportunity for students. In our GPA game, we noted that the student was bumped up a few spaces. And again, because again, it can be a benefit if the school is the student's top choice. So early action is non-binding, early decision is binding. Regular decision is the most common application option. Students can apply to as many schools as they want to under RD. Once the college has reviewed all the applications, then they will render a decision. And if accepted, they must notify the school by May 1st of the student's decision. Then you might also hear rolling admissions. And rolling is just that. Students apply when they're ready, and colleges review applications as they come in. So you might see, or students might see, a priority deadline on a rolling admission school, and that may be later in the year. But we always suggest to students that it's better to apply to a rolling school in the fall of their senior year. And in particular, if a student is looking for a specific major or a specific program and the school is a rolling admissions school, it's always better to apply earlier. So again, there are a number of ways to apply. The decision is really what's right for your student, and it also depends on the offerings of each college.
So all colleges and universities have goals for their own institution. These are things that are likely out of an applicant's control and are usually unknown to students in the applicant pool. In the GPA game, for instance, we saw that factors such as playing the oboe or viola, being a member of the Belichick family, playing a varsity sport, being from Idaho, or even selecting a particular major could affect a student's position in the applicant pool. So two students may have very comparable academic and extracurricular profiles, but if the college needs a particular instrument player to complete their marching band, the student who plays that instrument will have the edge. We'll see this with majors too. A college may have introduced a new major that they are trying to build up, or they may be trying to limit the number of students in a competitive program like business or nursing. So basically, the two main takeaways from the point of institutional goals for colleges and universities are, number one, please don't try to game the process by selecting a major that you are not genuinely interested in to try to increase your chances of admission. And number two, and even more importantly, please know that a denial from a college or university is not a referendum on who you are as a person. You don't know what that college's priorities are when they're composing an incoming freshman class, and they often need to make really tough decisions based on relatively limited information.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure I wasn't on mute. Excuse me. All right, so the next thing we want to discuss are recommendations. And recommendations are a great opportunity for colleges to learn more about who you are as a student, a learner, and overall as a person. Most colleges will require a counselor recommendation and a teacher recommendation. So with your counselor recommendation, it is an opportunity for that person to share more about the student, who they are as a person, what types of exciting projects are they involved in, their involvement in the community, what types of impact they've had here on our school's campus. But it also gives us an opportunity to provide some context to certain grades or perhaps a scheduling concern. So for example, we talked about the student that received that D during their senior year. Now, potentially that student may have had a conversation with their counselor and asked that they share some contextual information. Say that student got COVID during their senior year and was out of school for 2 weeks. Our block schedule, missing 1 day is really equivalent to missing many. And so it will take a student a long time to get caught back up. And while that's not meant to excuse that student's grade in that class, it's meant to provide some context. Colleges are human and they understand that things happen, particularly if that one grade was an outlier on the student's transcript. The video also showed another student who didn't provide enough information to their counselor, so the counselor couldn't write a really personalized letter of recommendation. We will be sending out and have available on our website, our school website, which we'll show at the end, a parent brag sheet and a student questionnaire, which gives parents and guardians an opportunity to share more about the great accomplishments your student has achieved. And students, this is your opportunity to brag about yourself too. So this will allow us to highlight some things that have been really important to you that the counselor might not know. With teacher recommendations, many families think that more is better, and that's not necessarily the case. In fact, most colleges only require one teacher letter of recommendation. Some of the more selective colleges may require 2, and those might be in specific subject areas. For a specific major, you might have to get specific subject areas. But those are, the teacher recommendations are the opportunity for the student to be shown in a light of who they are inside the classroom. So who should you ask? This doesn't necessarily need to be the teacher you've gotten an A with, but it should be from someone who can speak about who you are in the classroom. What were your contributions? Did you challenge the thinking of your classmates? Did you struggle in a particular area and really work hard inside the class and outside the class to get back on track? Did you lead discussions? So what type of student were you there? Also, some colleges may allow you to submit a recommendation from someone outside of the high school, like a coach or an advisor or a boss. But we ask that you really think about this before you ask someone outside of school. Most of the time, if you're asking someone to write your letter of recommendation, they're going to have good things to say about you. So if you're asking someone outside of school, really ensure that it's someone who can speak about you in a different light than your teacher or counselor may have already done so. Colleges receive hundreds of thousands of applications overall, and most are reading 90 to 100 a day. So be kind on their eyes and adhere to what they're asking that you submit. We also want you to consider, who you're asking and being thoughtful of who you're asking at the high school. While you can certainly ask any teacher from any year, having a teacher from your junior or senior year is a good idea because it can really talk about who you are now and how you have grown over the course of the 4 years. And there are a finite number of junior year teachers, for example. There are only so many English 11 teachers or US History 2 teachers. So be thoughtful. These teachers will have dozens of letters to write, and they just simply cannot write for everyone. So be thoughtful and ask early in advance.
So I feel like I hit the jackpot with the two topics I get to talk about tonight. So as they relate to kids and what's important in their lives, and a chance for them to share that with others. So when students who are here, their parents, guardians, when you're thinking about what to write for your essay, it's really about figuring out what you want to share with somebody. You know, what do you want them to know that's not easily available to them in another part of your application? You don't want to repeat and list all of your extracurricular activities. You don't want to, you know, share something about your, you know, favorite teacher in math who's writing a recommendation unless you want to be them and you're sharing why you want to be a math teacher. In the 25 years I've been doing this, I've read a lot of essays, and there's so many good topics. There are topics that horrify parents and guardians, but are outstanding. And the kids have a chance to really share who they are in essays. I've had students start essays in French. I've had kids figure out, you know, back in the day when they could submit a paper copy, it was decorated in a frame, my artistic kids. I've had kids write poetry for a full essay. So it's really up to the student to kind of share who they are in a way that's comfortable for them. Essays can truly be about anything, but please, please, please make sure you submit the essay, make sure it is proofed, make sure it doesn't include the wrong name of a college in it, make sure it doesn't have spelling errors unless it's intentional, you know, and it's part of the piece that you're working on. I have a daughter who has dyslexia, and she just wrote a great speech. And in the speech, she spelled out some of the words that she often spells wrong. So that's, you know, intentional. And sharing a piece of who she is like that would be something that would be appropriate for an essay. We are happy. This is one of the best parts of our job is, you know, sitting with kids as they explore options, as they write and rewrite and come up with a new topic. I've had very few kids over the years, but I do have some who, you know, the first time around, you know, they type it in the notes section of their phone and it's fabulous. And I say, don't change anything, leave it alone. But most of us are more human and have to take a couple, you know, goes at this in order to make it work. So the Common App gives you lots of choices, including topic of your choice. So you can truly write about absolutely anything. And we're here to brainstorm, to give feedback, to help and assist, whether it's the main essay that you're using or any of the supplements or things related to a specific major. So hopefully students, families, you know, contact us, get in touch with us, and we're happy to help with this.
So integrity is really of the utmost importance in the application process. As you saw in the GPA game, the student who was dishonest in their application was immediately eliminated from the game. So this means not just being honest about what you've done in the past, but being honest about what you plan to do, reporting on what you know, not what you expect. For instance, don't put in your application that you're the captain of the lacrosse team if you're applying in the fall and lacrosse isn't until the spring. If you only expect to be selected as captain, only report on it if you know for sure you've already been chosen as captain. Same thing with grades, only report on what is showing up on your transcript or report card. You know, students may think that stretching the truth or providing some slightly misleading information can't possibly be found out, but colleges more and more are now randomly selecting applicants to be verified. So we may receive a request from a college to confirm grades and participation in activities. And, you know, we are obviously going to be honest about that, even if it doesn't fully match up with the application. It's even possible for an entire degree to be revoked if the dishonesty is discovered years later when a student is applying for graduate school or applying for a job or applying for professional licensure. So it's really a cautionary tale for students that it could be devastating in the future if you're not honest on your application. Also, you know, we like to point out that being honest really will only increase your chances of finding a community that is comfortable for you to be a member of for the 4 years of your college career. I can't imagine how exhausting it would be to try to maintain some sort of mask of who you said you were for 4 years, rather than just being yourself. So we really implore students to be your most authentic self when you're applying to college, and use your application to be completely honest and just full of integrity.
Okay, demonstrated interest is the next topic. The value of researching schools prior to visiting is hugely important to your student and to the admissions office, and colleges are looking at this demonstrated interest of students. In fact, the National Associations of College Admissions Counselors notes 40% of colleges consider it to be considerably or moderately important of the applicants. And part of the reason for this is that in the lens of the college admissions offices, this is how they gauge the likelihood or the yield of their students of enrolling actually in the college if they're given an offer. So it's statistically, it's a data point for the school to kind of keep in mind as they're looking at applicants. Students researching colleges helps you see the overall picture, helps you see the ultimate comfortability of the environment that you are going to be on. Every campus is different. Every environment is different. So we can't stress enough how important it is to really research colleges, go and do campus tours, open houses, college admission sessions as much as possible at each school. In our GPA game, the student moved up one spot because they made themselves known to a college admissions rep, and that's really important. Anytime you can distinguish yourself from just a name on a piece of paper or a number or whatnot, it's really important, that face-to-face contact, whether it's through a Zoom that we offer in the school counseling office when our college reps come to visit. So those kinds of opportunities are really important. And so how do students gauge or demonstrate that interest? So maybe it's completing an online information request form. Maybe it's connecting with the college on social media. Maybe it's emailing the admissions counselor, again, attending admissions events in our area, visiting campuses. One I particularly like is spending time on a supplemental essay. And oftentimes the colleges will say, why X university? They're trying to gauge how much you know about the school. They're trying to gauge if you've really researched and done your homework on the school and really care about the college. So really pay close attention to those supplemental essays because colleges do compare not just the writing, but who you are as an applicant and how vested you are in their school. And again, colleges have done a really good job at making the look on campus very viable for families. They've offered virtual campus visits, virtual college tours, open houses, lots of sessions for families, self-guided tours, drive-through tours. Really, we would again suggest a campus visit. Again, it's an opportunity to see the environment of the school and determine if it's a good fit or match for the student. So you're hearing that word a lot tonight, a good fit. So this goes a long way. As I said, in the fall, we offer college rep visits. This year, we offered them through Zoom in the school counseling office. And this is an opportunity for our students to meet with the reps that are oftentimes reading their application. So again, that face to a name goes a long way in this process. And then there's regional and national college fairs. So there's plenty of opportunities to learn more about what each campus has to offer to students. And then the last topic is a complete application. I know it kind of sounds silly, but so many times students don't submit a complete application. It might be missing really important components. Maybe it's an SSAR report. And this is a common pitfall for students. There may be pieces of the application that the students have missed and don't even realize. It could be that the student didn't send in their standardized testing scores from College Board or ACT. They may have reported it on their Common App, but they haven't actually sent the official copy from College Board or their ACT account. They may be missing essays or supplements. Sometimes schools will send additional essays or an SSAR report. This is the Secondary School Academic Record Report that might come after the student applies. So this asks the student to report their grades in a portal provided by the school. So in this case, in our GPA game, the student missed a part of the application, and then therefore the application may not be looked at, or it may be looked at as incomplete or missing items, and the school can't assess them. So we always suggest students to take note of all the pieces of the application. Oftentimes colleges will send an email right after you've applied that has important information in it. Save that information. Follow up with the college directly if you have any questions about application materials. And we also suggest for students to have a trusted family member or a trusted friend read through their application, proofread, check for grammar, run on sentences. Oftentimes, this is a stressful time for students, and we see it in our offices all the time, and students will ask us to look over things, and we'll say, oh, did you really mean to write, this word in all lowercase letters? I don't think you did, if they're talking about their road or, where they live or whatnot. So in the heat of the moment and excitement of college, sometimes things can get overlooked by students. So just, another reminder to just really make sure your application is complete and to proofread everything before you submit it.
So at the end of the day, the message that we really want to make clear is that there is a place for everyone throughout the entire world, really, for college admissions. The students that we have up here on the screen were admitted to the very prestigious University of America because they had specific qualities that college was looking for. At a different institution, we might have 3 different students standing before us. So it's not necessarily, again, the strongest academically, but they might have different factors that are meeting that institution's goals. So overall, this process is about finding the right fit for you and remembering that what works for another person might not work for you. So everybody is going to be different. That fit might be academic, social, financially, in line with your family values. So it's meant to be a process, and you're going to have some peaks and valleys, but overall, our goal is to help you find the right fit for your student. So a couple of housekeeping items and some upcoming events that we want to tell you about. Up here on the screen, we have a few items that will be sent out to you after, and we'll pop them into the chat when we get a moment. So first, we have the college planning checklist and then our website. So I'm just going to move my screen here. So here is the example of the college planning checklist. It's a calendar starting at grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, and of course, grade 12, where families can get ideas of things that you should be focusing on at different times throughout high school. So, if you are a freshman, you're just really worrying about doing well in your classes, participating in extracurricular activities, and taking, classes that are challenging yet doable for you. So everybody has different things to be focusing on, and this is meant to be a guide for you. And then our school counseling website, again, this will be shared when I share the recording out later this week. Lots of information here, but particularly our forms and resources page has tons of information. It's where we put everything, any sort of form or resource that we've created or compiled. So you can find a lot of that information right there. And a couple of upcoming events. So tomorrow for juniors, we have shared this with juniors through multiple formats, but we will be holding a workshop for them called Getting Started with SCORE. SCORE is our new college application management software. For those of you that might have used Naviance a few years back with an older sibling or child, this has replaced Naviance. So this workshop for juniors tomorrow will be held during DSB in the library, and it's meant to be an introduction to SCORE, get them registered, learn how to use it, and see some of the cool features and tools that are available that will really aid them throughout the process. If students can't attend tomorrow, not a problem. We will be holding additional workshops in January and February, and we'll also have workshops open to sophomores and freshmen. But tomorrow we really want as many juniors as possible to join us. In the spring, we hold virtual college panels. This event we started last year, likely in April. We don't have an exact date yet, but we invited over 30 colleges from all across the country to join us. We had 5 or 6 different panels happening at 5 colleges each, where they each presented a short snippet on their school and were able to give just a very brief overview of things to consider. So it gave families a good idea of different programs they may not have initially considered. Prior to the start of school for rising seniors, typically the week prior to the start of school is a college application boot camp. It's only held one day for a few hours. We really encourage our students, our rising seniors, to join us. We hold structured workshops on a variety of different topics: essays, resumes, Common App score, financial aid. And we can really work with them and help them set a plan as they start the start of school. Historically, this event hasn't been super widely attended, likely because of its timing, but we're hopeful that if we announce it in advance and you know that it's coming, that we'll have more students joining us. And then in the fall of senior year, we have our nuts and bolts of the application process. This is an event geared towards our parents and guardians of seniors, but of course everyone is welcome. But it really gives a soup to nuts overview of the entire process, more kind of nitty gritty of what you should be considering and the logistical things that families should be doing. And as Mary Beth mentioned earlier, we will invite approximately 100 different colleges to visit Holliston High School. Historically, those visits have been in person. We've been virtual for the last couple of years, still unsure of how we'll be proceeding next year, but regardless, colleges will be visiting. And again, these are typically the people who will be reading students' applications, so a great opportunity to get face to the name and get some questions answered. So with that being said, we know this was a ton of information. We do have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can speak up and I will stop sharing my screen so you can see our faces. All right. Do we have any questions? So the question, when will junior parents get access to SCORE? We can get you access as soon as the students get access. So we will have the family or have the students join tomorrow, and then we'll send an invite to families as well. So not a problem. This gives you a lot of the same access that the students will have, but there are some things that you won't be able to adjust. Any other questions?
The second part of that question was about SATs, when to take. You know, traditionally students have taken them in the spring of their junior year, whether it's the SAT or the ACT, and a lot of times, you know, trying to figure out which one to take. So many things are online. If you Google what's the difference between SAT and ACT, you can get a chart that really lays out clearly the subjects that are covered, the timing of it, whether you can use a calculator. You know, they're evolving as well. So, you know, SAT is going to go online in the spring of 2024. So I think the best thing to do is Google in terms of dates and registration. You'll either go to the SAT website or the ACT website, so you can find out what dates they're offered. If your child is in math, it's a little bit different in Holliston, right? So if your child is in math first semester, junior year, you might want to have them take an earlier SAT or ACT, so they have that information in their mind. If you're doing prep work and you know you're going to have 6 weeks of prep work, you want to do it, you know, when that ends, you want to sit and take your ACT or SAT immediately. You don't want to wait until the fall. A lot of kids take it in the spring if they're going to take it. Some students will not take it at all. And that's fine too. As you do your research and you're looking for information, it's really up to every family to decide what the plan that is right for them, and we're happy to help you do that individually. So if you want to get in touch with us, we're happy to talk with you on the phone, talk with your child, whatever works for your family. We will sit and set a plan. There are kids who take the test a second time, and sometimes they do that in this, June of their junior year, or again in the fall of their senior year. We have kids who test for the first time in December of their senior year. So it's all over the place. So please reach out to us so we can help you come up with a testing timeline.
Do we have any other questions? Again, no pressure. We are all happy to, address any specific questions or even general questions afterwards tomorrow. Email, give us a call, schedule a meeting. We're happy to chat.
I think as a department, we think it's important that we get to know families in addition to our students. So the combination of kids and parents, guardians working on this together is important to us. So we want to make sure that we are partnered with you in this journey.
All right. Well, with all that being said, we do want to be conscious of your evening. We really do appreciate you joining us, especially as we're approaching the holidays. We know how busy this time of year is. We hope that this information was helpful to you, and we're really excited to work with your student and you throughout this process. So thank you all so much, and have a great evening. We look forward to working with you.